just in case she's over there trying to figure out how to do this. This is why we love Ruben so much.
We have on Zoom Adam and Chelsea, who are part of the architecture firm. I do think they have to be somewhere a little bit later, so if you have questions for them specifically, maybe that's first.
I think there's a staff presentation.
Dale, can you hear okay? Yeah, okay, good.
Right, yeah.
I like thumbs up in the screen, that's fast. I'm sure you guys heard, but we're just waiting on one last board member. She's going to be in here with you in the next couple of minutes, so we apologize for the wait, but we're gonna get going. And Dale, I did email you a letter of support that came in after the packet was published. These are two separate. This is from someone else. And that letter is from a different group. Are we allowed to see those letters? Yes.
I was searching in this morning, so it didn't make them happen that scroll note. I didn't get to say them in time, which is my fault.
Oh, and then this last one is just,
Yeah, it's just a note on top.
yeah. Okay, yeah. We'll read that one into the record, shall we, since it's like the 6 words long. Oh, Betsy Marston. Oh, that's Betsy Marston. We are unmuted. So cold.
Okay. And is she in the chat? Oh, you need to admit her, or is it, I see it's coming in, there we go.
There she is.
All right.
Can you hear us okay, Gia?
There she is.
Figure out how long before she figures out.
Okay, I got, hear me?
There you are.
Okay, cool.
Can I hear you?
Yeah.
Your speaker's on?
Yes.
Right.
Oh.
Yep. Okay, so I will now open.
No, first we have to do roll call.
Oh,
You have to open the meeting and do roll.
yeah, I need.
Very good.
Okay, so I will open the meeting today. Today is the 24th of April, 6 o'clock, slightly after 6 o'clock. And we are here for the town of Paonia, the zoning board of appeals and adjustments and appeals. There we go. And so we'll start by calling roll call. So
I got that.
with that,
All right. Chair Justerbeck,
Here.
Secretary Pinelli,
Here,
Board Member Schroeder,
here.
and Board Member Bachman.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right. So our next item is we have the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion that to approve the agenda as written.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay.
aye.
Motion passes. All right, so our next item we have is a public hearing. And this is a public hearing to consider the application from Emily Sinclair and Jay Kenny of 232 Grand Avenue LLC for a variance to install an ADA accessible ramp on town property at the property located at 232 Grand Avenue, Paonia, Colorado, 81428. All right, so I will now open the public hearing to consider the application submitted by Emily Sinclair and Jay Kenny of 232 Grand Avenue LLC for a variance to install an ADA accessible ramp on town property at the property located at 232 Grand Avenue, Paonia, Colorado, 81428. The purpose of the hearing is to provide a public forum for all interested parties who wish to comment on these applications before the Zoning Board of Adjustments. The procedure for the public hearing will be as follows. First, there will be a presentation by staff. Second, there will be a presentation by the applicant. After these two presentations, we will allow members of the public to speak for up to 5 minutes. All testimony must be presented at the lectern after you give your full name and address, and I swear you in, or across Zoom if you're going to be speaking through the Zoom meeting. Please do not repeat points made by others, but it is fine to say that you agree or disagree with the comment previously made. Please direct all of your comments to the Zoning Board of Adjustments and not to the town staff or the applicant. After receiving public comments, we will allow the applicant and town staff an opportunity to respond and answer any questions raised by the public comments. I will then turn the matter over to the Zoning Board of Adjustments, and the board members may ask the questions of anyone who testified. We generally will not ask questions during the presentations. Finally, I will close the public hearing and the board will discuss the matter and may take some kind of action. Once the public hearing has closed, no further comment from the applicant or public will be taken. However, the board members may ask for advice from the town attorney. Public hearings are recorded for the public record. Do we have proper notification?
Yes, you do.
Thank you. Do any board members have any disclosures, i.e. conflicts of interest, ex parte contacts, etc.? Okay. Hearing none, we have no public, no disclosures. So now we will turn it over to staff with staff presentation.
Okay, so as you heard, this meeting is a review of SBR 2026-017, application for a special use review as outlined in section 6.4 40 of the town of Paonia's municipal code of ordinances for parcel number 3245061280017, the property commonly known as 232 Grand Avenue, Paonia, Colorado 81428. Specifically, the applicant is asking for a variance to construct an ADA accessible ramp in front of the building's entrance as part of a larger remodel, changing the building to a cafe and refreshing the exterior. As a note, the applicant originally submitted for the zoning variance alongside a request for a variance on parking space requirements. References to the number of parking spaces in this application should be ignored as the issue is being reviewed by the planning commission at a separate meeting. And the plans for the ramp are located on pages 11 and 12 of the larger plan set as you got the whole entire thing. Some general information, zoning and land use, the property is zone C1, which is the core commercial district. All remodeling must conform to the 2018 International Building Code and the Paonia Municipal Code. Applicable regulations are the Paonia Municipal Code Chapter 16 zoning, particularly section 16370 through 16380, which are schedules of uses and requirements for commercial and industrial districts, as well as section 11160 business sidewalks. Paonia Municipal Code Appendix D, streets related work specified elsewhere, general requirements and specifications. The International Building Code 2018 and the ADA standards for accessible design 2010. Documents reviewed for this report were the SRB 2026-017 application and construction plans, the Town of Paonia Comprehensive Plan 2025, Chapter 16, zoning, Chapter 11, streets, sidewalks, and public spaces, and Appendix D, Town of Paonia Municipal Code. The ADA standards for accessible design 2010, as well as the property record card from the Delta County R008989. So required findings needed to consider a special use review. As established in PMC 16450, site plan review criteria and performance standards. The criteria, review, and performance standards are as follows. 1. Compliance of the application with this code in general. The proposed ADA accessible ramp does not comply with maintaining the required 10-foot sidewalk for businesses in the C1 district. The 200 block of Grand Avenue is specifically mentioned in PMC 11160 as being subject to this requirement. The proposed ramp oversteps the building's 0-foot setback outlined in PMC 16320 as required for C1 district buildings, and it encroaches into the town sidewalk by 60 inches. 2. The compatibility of the proposed use and site plan with the character of the surrounding area. The proposed use for the building, a coffee shop and bookstore, falls well within the C1 intent to provide for the orderly development of those commercial and business uses, government, educational, and cultural facilities that are characteristic of downtown areas and promote comparison shopping and pedestrian activity in the core area. Currently, the 10-foot wide sidewalk along the 100 and 200 blocks of Grand Avenue contains several permanent obstacles within the usable area of the sidewalk, including signposts, awning supports with benches, large planters, bike racks, as well as an accessible ramp at 226 Grand Avenue. Temporary uses of this space include a piano, magazine racks, benches, sandwich boards, bike racks, dining patios, etc. The addition of the ramp is not out of character for the area. The desirability and need for the proposed use. An ADA accessible entrance is necessary for the building, whether in the front or back, to comply with the 2018 IBC, the 2010 ADA standards, and the town's goals outlined in the 2025 comprehensive plan. 11031 of the IBC referenced in the applicant's documentation states that sites, buildings, structures, facilities, elements, and spaces, temporary or permanent, shall be accessible to individuals with disabilities. The code specifically states that it shall apply to the construction, alteration, relocation, enlargement, replacement, repair, equipment use and occupancy, location, maintenance, removal, and demolition of every building or structure or any apparaturences connected or attached to such building or structures. The ADA standards for accessible design, section 202.3 states that buildings undergoing alterations are required to comply with the 2010 standards. Specifically, section 10-106-5 defines alterations as a change to a building or facility that affects or could affect the usability of the building or facility or a portion thereof. Alterations include but are not limited to remodeling, renovation, rehabilitation, reconstruction, historic restoration, resurfacing of circulation paths or vehicular ways, changes or rearrangement of the structural parts or elements, and changes or rearrangements in the plan configuration of walls and full height partitions. Normal maintenance, re-roofing, painting, or wallpapering, or changes to mechanical and electrical systems are not alterations unless they affect the usability of the building or facility. The planned renovations clearly require an accessible interior. However, the outside work on the building's facade might be considered superficial resurfacing akin to painting that does not impact the use of space, thus may not, quote, trigger the need for the addition of an accessible entrance. The location of the ramp encroaching on the town sidewalk is not the most desirable place, as it impacts the use of the sidewalk by reducing the area. However, the rear patio is elevated significantly above the alley and would provide more difficult challenges to achieve ADA standards. The concrete pad pictured above is at least 6 inches above the alley, requiring a ramp 6 feet in length, which would encroach on the alley by 4 feet and place perpendicular to the building and 2 feet in place parallel. To get up to the platform where the door is, the ramp would need to be 20 feet long with at least 2 turns with 4x4 platforms each turn, leaving a total of 28 feet of ramp. 4, the potential for adverse environmental influences that might result from the proposed use. The proposal does not include potential for adverse environmental influences. 5, compatibility of the proposed use and site plan with the policies and guidelines of the comprehensive plan. The 2025 Paonia comprehensive plan establishes a clear policy framework under its infrastructure element that prioritizes dependable, safe, and sustainable infrastructure systems. The plan envisions infrastructure that is proactive, environmentally responsible, and protective of community assets and neighboring properties. Several adopted policies directly relate to the proposed site modifications. Econ Policy 9 directs the town to, quote, ensure that all public buildings, businesses, and event venues planned for and include ADA parking and entrances. Transportation Policy 3 directs the town to, quote, ensure that all sidewalk upgrades meet ADA design standards and include features that meet accessibility requirements such as standardized curb ramps at intersection crosses, ample sidewalk widths, and an unobstructed pathway clear of overgrowth or tripping hazards. The reduction of the front sidewalk conflicts with the second listed policy, but the addition of an accessible entrance adheres to both the first and second policy. B, lights and signs shall be located in a manner that will not be distracting to adjoining properties or passing motorists. This criterion is not being evaluated at this time, as changes to the lighting will be reviewed along with the town's dark skies ordinance number 5/2022 with the building's permit submission. No variance has been requested. Landscaping shall be provided in areas near public right-of-way and located with consideration for energy conservation. An acceptable plan must be provided for the maintenance of the required landscaped areas. No landscaping changes have been proposed, therefore this point is not applicable. Control of storm drainage shall be provided so as not damaging adjoining properties. The plan must be approved by the town engineer. No changes to the existing drainage system have been submitted, therefore this point is not applicable. Site design and building plan shall include provisions for the needs of handicapped individuals as required by the building code or other ordinances of the town. This application provides the required provisions for ADA compliance. Approved landscaping or solid fencing capable of screening adjacent properties shall be provided where commercial uses abut residential uses. No abuttal to residential properties exists, therefore this point is not applicable. Commercial and industrial uses shall conform to the following performance standards. No dust, odor, gas fumes, glare, or vibration shall extend beyond lot lines. Glare pertains to sunlight reflected from windows or other integral portions of buildings, as well as from lighting fixtures and signs. The addition of an ADA accessible ramp will not create this problem. Smoke shall not be emitted at a density greater than number 1 on the Ringman scale. The addition of an ADA accessible ramp will not create this problem. No particles of fly ash shall exceed 0.2% grains per cubic foot of the flue gas at stack temperature of 50 degrees Fahrenheit. The addition of an ADA accessible ramp will not create this problem. Noise, no noise shall be emitted which exceeds a maximum of 75 decibels with maximum increase of 5 decibels permitted for a maximum of 15 minutes in any 1 hour. In addition, every activity shall be conducted so that no noise produced is objectionable due to intermittence, beat, frequency, or shrillness. The addition of an ADA accessible ramp will not create this problem. Water pollution. No water pollution shall be emitted by the manufacturing or other processing. The addition of an ADA accessible ramp will not create this problem. Outside storage areas that adjoin R1, R2, or R3 districts must be screened from view with screening of at least 8 feet high. The screening shall be constructed of board fencing, screen material fencing, or shrubs. The property does not adjoin residential districts, therefore this is not applicable. Traffic to and from the I1 and I2 district facilities must be restricted to truck routes. The weight of trucks is limited to standard highway limits unless otherwise posted. The property is in a C1 district, therefore this is not applicable. And industrial activity within the I1 district will be restricted to 9 AM to 9 PM. This property is in a C1 district, therefore this is not applicable. So the summary of the findings, based on the evidence and documentation reviewed, the proposed ADA compliant entrance ramp at the front entrance of 232 Grand Avenue preemptively addresses ADA compliance issues that might arise from the building's remodeling, follows Paonia's comprehensive plan, does encroach on the town of Paonia's property and sidewalks, but not in a way that is uncharacteristic of the existing C1 use of sidewalk space along Grand Avenue, and is designed in accordance with the 2010 ADA standards and specifications. Staff analysis. The benefits of adding an accessible entrance to one of the main storefronts on Grand Avenue outweigh the loss of sidewalk space in the front of the building. The 4'6" unchanged sidewalk path is acceptable for ADA access along the street, especially as there are ample quote passing areas on either side of the proposed ramp. The proposed ramp provides 6 inches more space on the main sidewalk than the existing ramp in front of 226 Grand Avenue, and its encroachment does not exceed current uses of the sidewalk along the 100 and 200 blocks. Placing the ramp in the back may qualify as an undue burden and seems to be a much more complicated and less useful way of providing ADA access. The business's current use of sandwich board advertising, however, may need to be limited due to the ramp's location. Limiting the sidewalk use for additional objects along the ramp and within 4 feet of the ramp's entrance will ensure it remains ADA compliant and that the remaining walkway is not further limited in width. Staff recommends conditional approval of SRB 2026-017, subject to the following 2 addendums. 1, limit to sidewalk use permits. No objects will be left in the sidewalk along the length of the ramp nor within 4 foot of its entrance. And engineering approval. Shums Coda approves the ramp design as ADA compliant and designed to meet the 2018 IBC standards. And the potential motions need to be edited slightly because this is not an official stamped approval hearing. This is recommendations to approve or not to the Board of Trustees. So I move to conditionally recommend, I'm actually going to read what's written there. I think we have a different version. I move to recommend conditional approval of SRB 2026-017, subject to engineering approval and limitations on where sidewalk use permits allow objects to sit. Or I move to recommend denial of SRB 2026-017.
Okay, so that was the staff presentation. I will ask, are there any other staff comments? Okay. So with that, let's turn to the applicant presentation. So will the applicant or the applicant's representative please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and take the oath.
Good evening, I'm Emily Sinclair of 232 Grand Avenue.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth in this matter?
I do.
Thank you. You may make your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm a little bit uncertain of where to look for our Zoom people, but I'm glad you're here wherever you
You're seeing you just fine. Just go.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you all for your participation. We are also, I'm here with my husband tonight, Jay Kinney, who I think will also speak, but we're grateful for the assistance of town staff getting us here tonight too. I just wanted to provide a little bit of context for our application. Paonia Books, my bookstore is 4 years old. In the short time that we've been in Paonia, we've evolved from a bookstore to a bookstore cafe and central community hub. The idea of opening up a bookstore in a town of 1,500 people was always an experiment. Is it possible to have a thriving bookstore in a rural community? And it's been mission-based in that we bring in visiting authors and offer free programming. The experiment seems to be working. We've been voted the best bookstore in southwestern Colorado. We have brought in nationally known authors. But we have learned that books are not an end in themselves, but rather a starting point for enabling people to get together and talk and for building community. In the last year, we've created a nonprofit arm that has received a grant from a national funder that allows for more programming and allows for us to work with other organizations, including local schools and the library on community projects and host book giveaways. That increase in the way that the bookstore serves the community is where the new building comes in. When the previous owner of the cafe decided to move out of Paonia, Jay purchased the cafe because we felt like we would be able to integrate what we were providing the community while still maintaining two separate businesses. In late 2025, we began working with an architecture firm from Denver, Unum Collaborative, who's represented tonight here with Adam Steinbach, their principal, and Chelsea Fish. And we chose them because they have extensive commercial building experience, but also Adam has spent a lot of time in Paonia. He's got really good friends here, and he's been to the bookstore and he understood exactly what we were talking about in terms of the street, the history, and the vibe. So what they have designed in our collective work together is a space that allows for more books and gathering and improved accessibility from our current location next door at 234. In terms of the interior space, there's more access inside for people with mobility issues and technologies to move among the bookshelves and the tables with new bathrooms. We're putting in 2 new bathrooms. One, the existing bathroom in there is, you could probably get assistive devices in there, but it is in no meaningful way ADA compliant. So we've updated that. And we considered multiple options for other ADA compliance with our doorway, which is 6 inches. I was about to say 6 feet. That would really be a doozy. We would have part 4 in books. Sorry, I shouldn't freestyle. So our doorway is 6 inches off of the sidewalk, and with Unum, we considered multiple iterations of what a different ADA compliance might look like. Primarily, that looks like a vestibule where the door would be moved. I don't remember the technical specifications that would have been required, but about 6 feet in. That would have required intense structural work. And one, it's an old building and that was going to get more complicated, more expensive, and it would have required shoring up that we're frankly weren't quite prepared to do, which is how we came to the ramp issue. So we ended up with the ramp because we felt like it was in keeping with Blue Sage, and we felt like I will once again freestyle and say, as a person who had back surgery 4 weeks ago, my awareness of mobility issues is keen right now. And that ramps provide for strollers, ramps provide for people with canes, ramps provide for people with sprained ankles, with neuropathies. There's all kinds of reasons to have ramps and not stairs, even for the invisibly disabled. So we came to feel like that was more in keeping with the street. We also felt like the introduction of a vestibule and moving the door 6 feet in would create more pinch points inside the building. So it might create more accessibility on the outside, but less accessibility on the inside because we were going to have to clear out so much space for tables and bookshelves. So Jay and I feel like we are investing in this community and its people, but we're also working with some financial constraints that are one of the beauties of this community is that it supports small businesses, and we are a Main Street business. We are not Starbucks and Barnes and Noble. And so we feel like this is a terrific solution. We believe this design meets your requirements. We think it welcomes people with mobility issues. It's aesthetically pleasing and it's affordable for us. And we appreciate the recommendation to move ahead. And now I don't know if I can see if Jay has comments or if Adam or Chelsea do, or if you have another step and I should just go sit down and be quiet.
Yeah, anybody else on your team would like to speak, please do so.
I actually would like, well, let me do this first. My name is Jay Kenny. I live out of town limits. I live out of town. There we go. Do I need to take the oath? Yeah.
Sure. Do you swear to tell the truth in this matter?
I do.
Thank you.
Just for the moment, I would at least like to offer Adam or Chelsea a chance to address if they feel like there's anything they need to add to what Emily has said. I know that they both have other obligations coming up fairly soon. And I don't know if Adam is there and can hear us.
I am, yeah. I think Chelsea is it might be a little preoccupied with her infant. So I don't have much to add to it. I really intended to just be here in support, and if any other questions came up in regards to the technical or the logistics of it, I'm happy to discuss, but I don't have anything additional to add to what Emily.
Real quick, can I get you to retroactively take a vote? Do you swear to tell the truth in this matter?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, okay, that sounds
Well,
good.
I'll just
Continue on,
return
Jay.
to my presentation. But really just 4 points that I want to make. First, we have 3 businesses that operate currently out of 234 Grand Ave and that will operate out of 232. Well, the coffee business, Espresso Paonia, the bookstore, Paonia Books, and the building will serve, and the current building serves as a tasting room for my cider company, which is Clear Fork Cider. We're open 7 days a week. All 3 businesses essentially are open because the baristas for the coffee shop are cross-trained to sell books and to sell bottles of cider. We're all in the same space. And to me, that's important because I don't know how many other businesses in town are actually open 7 days a week. Most are not. So that actually adds to Emily's point about we're a community space. We're not always open, but we're nearly always open. I appreciate the town's presentation and stress the difficulty of approaching a ramp or access in any other way. And want to just comment as my 3rd point on the comprehensive plan. The concept we have to not comply with, but be in accord with the comprehensive plan. And there are economic goals in part 3 of the comprehensive plan. And I don't know if I have copies of those, if it would be appropriate to give them to at least the individual members who are here. I'm looking at the clerk for.
Yeah, we just need to make sure to enter them into others.
I have, let's see, where did I put all that? Here. Let me just walk over, since we'll make a record, I'll give a copy of what I'm gonna give to the board members to the clerk, and if do I need to ask for permission to approach? No. I'm approaching. So there are very specific goals called out in the plan, the economic development plan. Number 2 is to encourage the creation and maintenance of local independent businesses in order to build community wealth and provide opportunities to individuals and families. Goal 3 is to maintain a healthy, vibrant, and beautiful commercial district. And goal 4 is to encourage economic diversity and resilience to ensure the local economy is not overly reliant on one industry. Of course, we don't call out what that one industry is or was, but certainly coal has been a driver of the economy for decades here. All of those goals are entirely compatible with what we have done and what we intended to. Specifically, there are policies that go along with the individual goals. Support the retention and expansion of locally owned businesses with a policy to prioritize opportunities for local entrepreneurs or businesses that meet local needs. That's one of those things. There wasn't ever a bookstore on Main Street. There, as far as I know, was never a dedicated coffee shop on Main Street. And I'm fairly certain there's never been a cider and local wine tasting room on Main Street. The other points that are worth mentioning are actually, I'm looking at the economic number 12, policy number 12, which is to encourage businesses that provide access to goods and services that meet real community needs. That's one of those that just stands out for me. I presume that everybody needs coffee. Certainly we seem to go from cup to cup in order to get through a day. But certainly more than anything else, it's the books and the community that to me strikes the loudest note. What Emily's done with the bookstore is nothing less than fantastic. And we have been able to provide, this is Economic Policy 13, year-round, well-paying, place-based jobs for residents. And to that point, I'll remind the board and members of the public who may hear this at another time, that we are open 7 days a week, starting at 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. And then as we move into the new building, we'll have extended hours as well. And that's what is really contributing to that economic policy, number 13. And last, and this is probably more of a philosophical comment than anything else. Accessible space is important to us, it's important to customers, it's important to the town, and it's important to society at large. One of the things that you don't see within any kind of compliance requirement for access is a discussion of who should or who will pay for it. Currently, it is the private business community that has to pay for accessibility, and neither Emily nor I disagree with that. But this approach that we have proposed allows some of the burden to fall upon a town as well as on a business. And to me, that feels right. What we were doing and what we intend to do is going to benefit both Emily and me, but also the town writ large. And the use of 5 feet of space feels like an appropriate contribution by the town to this project that Emily and I are engaged in. I think that's all I have unless the board has questions.
Okay, well, thank you, Jay. I do have some questions, but let's just kind of
Yeah.
follow the, let's just follow the
Yeah.
lead here. So thank you for your presentation. Anything else from the applicant then? For their presentation?
Nothing.
Okay, perfect. So I will now open the public comment portion of the public hearing. So if anybody would like to speak from the public on behalf, please identify yourself And either come up to the pulpit here or identify yourself if you're on the Zoom meeting. Yes,
I have a couple of letters of support that I'd like to read. For the
Okay,
record, if that-
perfect. Yeah, that sounds great. And I think we have a copy of them. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
I sent copies of one to our board members on Zoom, but just in case, I feel
Sure.
better just to read them both. in.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. One of them is from 4/14/2026 and says, to the council, yes, I approve of this ramp, and this is from Betsy Marston, who is a property owner now. And then the second one, which is the letter that I sent out, reads, Dear Zoning Board and Board of Trustees for the Town of Paonia. I'm writing to express my support for Emily Sinclair and Jay Kinney's request to install an AD accessible ramp on town property outside of 232 Grand Avenue to provide safe and accessible entry for individuals with disabilities. Improving accessibility within our community is an important step toward ensuring that all residents and visitors have the opportunity to fully participate in local businesses and public spaces. An ADA compliant ramp at this location would help remove barriers for individuals with mobility challenges and demonstrate the town of Paonia's commitment to inclusivity and equal access. Emily Sinclair and Jay Kinney's request represents a thoughtful and practical improvement that will benefit not only those with disabilities, but also others who may need easier access, including seniors, parents with strollers, and visitors with temporary mobility limitations. I respectfully encourage the zoning board and the board of trustees to support this request so this important accessibility improvement can move forward. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Elizabeth Heydrich, Needle Mountain Realty and Land, Paonia, Colorado.
Just so I know for the fact, for the record, Needle Rock is located directly north of your guys' property. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
The current existing property, 234.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public have any public comments? All right, hearing none, then I will close the public comment period. And now we have applicant and staff rebuttals. So I guess, does the applicant wish to offer any further comment based upon any of the public information that you've heard or anything else? Feel free to step in. Thank you. All right. Okay, any other further questions from town staff?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll close the public comment period, portion of the public hearing. And so next we will turn to board questions and deliberation. I want to state that the documents included as a part of the record for this public hearing include all application materials submitted by the applicant, all materials included in the packets, all written referral and public comments received regarding the application, the notice of hearings, and the town's ordinances. Does anyone have any objection to the inclusion of these items in the record? Okay, hearing none, we shall move on. So next part is questions from the trustees. And so with that, I will open it up for anybody that would like to deliberate.
Why don't you ask your questions?
I have questions. I get to go first?
You get to go first.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. I do have a few questions. And this might be technical questions that maybe Adam could probably help out with here. So I understand in looking at some of the site plans here is that it's about a 6-inch distance from the finished floor elevation to the nearest point on the sidewalk. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then I guess one of my questions is, and just to give you a little bit of background, I'm an engineer. I've done civil work by trade, so I'm gonna ask a few kind of technical questions that I want to make sure I'm clear with. So in order to meet ADA compliant, if you do not have a guardrail, you have to have a maximum slope of 2%. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And so if you were to take
Sorry. So you do not need a guardrail if you are under 30 inches in height.
Correct, but what I'm trying to say is the grade of the sidewalk has to be 2% or less.
Yes, correct. The
That's
sidewalk, correct.
Right.
Yes.
So if we were to take the grade from the finished floor of the building to basically to the edge of the where the curb and gutter is, that grade right there is in excess of 2%. Is that correct?
Sorry, say that
Okay.
again.
If you were to take the grade of the finished floor of the building at
Yep.
the setback line.
Yeah,
And to go 10 feet out to where the edge of the curb and gutter is on the sidewalk, that net grade is greater than 2%.
Perpendicular to the building.
So it's a 10-foot long
The
stretch.
sidewalk is 10 feet wide.
yeah, well, nine's, yeah,
Right, so what I'm just trying to say is if you go 10 feet out and 6 inches down, plus whatever natural grade the sidewalk has is falling away, you can't basically get a 2% cross slope in there, so I'm trying to say.
right.
Okay, so the reason for the handicap ramp is that's the only practical way that you can create that, if I'm not mistaken.
It's the only practical way we can get the 6-inch incline within that percentage, correct?
Okay, and then my next question is, you had mentioned, discussing about the vestibule, and I'm presuming that is, historic building, old building, start touching things, all hell breaks loose, and it could cost a lot, and it's so, I mean, I'm assuming it's it's a potential, economic, what's the proper term for it? Burden or
Hardship.
economic hardship, I guess is what we're trying to say.
Yes.
I think in terms of the hardship, we can address that. We're very concerned about the facade of the building.
Okay,
There is I think what is essentially a stone foundation underneath it.
okay,
And we are trying to treat it with kid gloves.
understand, okay.
So on that part, yes, and Adam may want to talk about the other alternatives aside from the engineering piece of it.
Okay,
There is also a provision in the code in the IEBC code, I think it's section 305, that any burden beyond 20% of the construction is not necessarily needed. So there actually is a scenario where we do not have to provide a ramp if the extents of the construction and the extents to bring it up to code are beyond that percentage. And so I think it's an example of Jay and Emily trying to do what's right for both the town and their clients, their customers, in order to provide an accessible entry and a more desirable entry into the space. Because likely what will need to happen if we have to build a vestibule, whether it be within or up to the street, we have to provide a landing within the vestibule and then an additional 6 feet into it. So we're actually talking about significant, I believe it's 3 feet, and it was 60 inches in length, and then another 6 feet in length. So we're now having to not only alter the exterior of the building, we're altering several feet, 10 feet or so into the building, both from a roof structure, a foundation structure, and a floor structure in order to maintain that, which I think would easily create that financial hardship to meet that exception in the code. And likely that's not the direction we want to go at all. The hope is to provide this accessible entry.
yeah, thank you. That clears it up, but that was one of the things I wanted to understand. Okay, so the next question that I have is, and I think, as far as the location of an ADA ramp in the front, the frontage of the building by all means makes sense. It doesn't make any sense to have it located in the rear of the building. That's almost very uninviting for that matter. I think you want to certainly have it in the location. You want to have it by all means as a direct route as possible. I think that makes good sense. The question that I do have is, in terms of the fact that it's taking up almost half of kind of the available sidewalk frontage, due to its configuration of basically only having one ramp, which in this case is sloping to the north. And I kind of looked around town and, of course, the Blue Sage has a ramp which has dual sides, and it's kind of open on both ways, and I think it's kind of my opinion that that kind of is a little bit more opening and inviting, because if you're walking north-south up and down the sidewalk, you know, you could still walk up and down that ramp and not go into the blue sage, and so it gives you more street or more sidewalk frontage that's utilized. Where I think the ramp kind of design that you're kind of focusing on right now is like if you're walking to the south and you walk up the ramp, you got to go in, which is great for business, but it also kind of closes off a portion of the sidewalk. So I guess I would maybe like to encourage you to consider a design similar to the Blue Sage that just kind of keeps the street frontage or the sidewalk frontage open up a little bit more and everything. And I see there's a comment here, maybe, yeah.
I love that comment. So I do want to remark that the Blue Sages is not ADA compliant. The ramp is way too short. It does have to be a full 6 feet on either side, and I don't know how that compares with the frontage face, whether they'll be going into other businesses. Frontage as well, if it is done like that, but
Okay.
yeah, I think it is very much more inviting.
How wide is your lot, the frontage of your lot, do you know?
I'd have to ask Adam if he knows how wide the lot is. It's in the plan somewhere, but as you've seen, the plans are comprehensive.
Yeah.
I think he's.
And I think my thought behind
You're-
that. Oh, go
You're
ahead.
about 26 feet, 4 inches or so, give or take. So you do have enough room. You're gonna get a little bit tighter to your south neighbor, but you have enough room on
Okay,
either side. I think just to address that, the one concern we had was, if there is space for bike parking or stroller parking or anything else, that can't really exist now within that. So now you're extending the infraction onto the sidewalk another 6 feet instead of what it is right now. So that's the only sort of counter I have to that, because that little alcove gives you an opportunity to place to place strollers or to place bikes or to place seating or benches or anything like that, where that doesn't, that street furniture can't exist now on that side of the railing.
yeah, I understand that, okay. Are you gonna be operating both, because you own both this and the property to the north, is that correct?
Yes,
Are they gonna be both operate kind of under the same infrastructure, like are they gonna have interconnects, or are they gonna be kind of operated as separate businesses?
so they are gonna be completely separate businesses.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
well, I think that's I think my biggest, question is I would like to see, I think, maybe a dual ramp approach, just because, I think it's a little bit more inviting, and I understand your concept about, parking or, stroller parking, bicycle parking and everything, and I think that's something that we could balance out. I know that the town has recently entertained, like some motorcycle parking, on the corners there, and maybe there's an opportunity to enhance some of that and have some bike parking within the actual street corridor as an option or something like that. And what I'm really trying to get at is I really want to make sure that, I'm a strong believer that, the town only has so much physical right of way on the sidewalk. And by all means, I think this is a great use, and I do want to see some sort of a ramp there, but I want to make sure that we can utilize this limited resource that we have as a public space as best as we can for all the public to use. And, if the decision is, yes, we want to have, some, stroller parking, some bike parking that maybe gets utilized as a corner there, and the ramp only has one entrance, then that might be the decision. Or if the decision is maybe 2 ramps make the best sense to, utilize the best public space. I'm open to either of those thoughts, but I certainly would like that something that we can bring that message forward, that the town trustees can discuss it in more detail and see what their thoughts are. I just want to make sure that, we as, the public or the town folk are not selling ourselves short and giving our right of way away, if that makes sense. And it's not any, impact there, but I think the answer is, I believe, an ADA ramp by all means makes sense, and I believe it has to encroach somehow on the town's right of way. I just want to make sure that we are balancing all of the needs in the most appropriate way, that it's going to be the best for everybody. So I'm going to quit talking.
Well, if we could respond.
Sure,
Yeah,
is that fine?
when we started out, we originally preferred the blue sage treatment before we realized it wasn't ADA compliant. But one of the things that we ran into is that a dual-sided ramp would, on the south end, essentially require people to navigate the bike rack at Indigo, who's our neighbor and who we've been talking about. There are some places where our buildings intersect, but it requires us to ask her to move the bike rack, which pushes her down. So we would have a handicap ramp that no one with real mobility issues could access if there were bikes at Indigo by the time that it met the requirements. And that started to be a concern, like, it might be aesthetic. I mean, I think it's worth considering what you're asking, but we were looking more at the, how does town actually work? But I think your comments are well taken. Yeah.
Well, and then just so I understand, right, so the bike rack at Indigo, that's basically remind me, the $25 a year the town.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So basically, ultimately the town has kind of a little bit of leeway in the location of that to try to manage all this stuff on the run.
Greg, could I say something?
Yeah,
GF and
please
L.
do.
I disagree with you. I'm sorry, hun, but if it's only 6 inches rise into the building, is that correct? It's only 6 inches for the ramp to go into the building?
What?
Vertical height, yes, it's only 6 inches, but
Thank
the ramp itself is 6 feet.
Yeah, so the height is what I'm saying into the building. I find the ramp into the Blue Sage very confusing. I've run into people coming the opposite way. When I'm trying to go up, they're coming up and it's not wide enough. That would be really confusing to have a wheelchair or an older person going up one side and some little kid coming on his little whatever scooter the other side or whoever, because kids do use that a lot as kind of a skate park thing. And I just think it makes more sense to not cause problems with Indigo Autumn, which I don't know if there would be a problem, but people are used to that bike ramp there. I think it makes more sense, like Adam said, to have parking for extra bikes, because I like to pull right up with my bike, go into the store and not park at the corner where you might say there's extra space for motorcycles or whatever, because I put my groceries in there. So I think that the way you have it planned makes more sense logically to me. And I just wanted to voice that. I think it's fine the way you have it. That's all.
Could I respond
Yeah, please.
just on really a procedural point? I don't know if the ZBOA is required to make a specific recommendation in terms of the design or not. But I think what we would ask of the commission is to be as explicit as it can be within the bounds of the process that you have, so that when we go to the trustees council, which we will, one way or the other, the trustees know exactly what your recommendation is. And if the recommendation from the group here tonight is a 2-sided ramp, I would rather have that explicit rather than something that's just out there as a squishy idea, but that has not been considered completely by this commission.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds great. So, Gia, did you have anything else to add? If not, we can ask.
No, that's just something I, really
Okay. That sounds great.
noticed with the double ramp. I never really thought it was that great, but anyway.
Okay, well, yeah, let's open it up. Anybody else any other comments for our building board?
I think
Greg, I have a question, and this is kind of towards Adam, and maybe he can help me a little bit. I know the newer building code would require historical building, kind of on your 20% rule. A lot of times those historic buildings are kind of exempt from some compliance and some issues. I mean, does any of that qualify, and is this building historical to where any of that would apply?
So, I mean, it may be historic to the town. I don't think it has any national or state recognition as being historic, and that's typically what would be required to meet that exception. Unless Jay or Emily know if there's any historic designation to this building. I was not aware of any. I did not find any. But the section you're referring to is 305, I think 8.8 in the IEBC.
And is that 2024? Because I know the newer one, because I just reviewed a class on that, and I didn't think it had to be national. I thought it had to be either the local government that would consider it historical.
So it would be 2018 because that's the code that you guys are under. So it'd be 2018 IEBC. Let me see if I can find this section. Might take a second, but yeah, I think they typically have a definition of historic, and it does need some sort of, oh, here we go. It's 0.9. Facilities designated as historic structures that undergo alterations or a change of occupancy unless technically infeasible. So we'd have to go into what historic, the definition of historic buildings are. So it might take me a second, but
And that may just be an idea to go forward. Kind of like what Jay's saying. That way, once you get in front of the trustees, all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted.
Well, and if I understand it, with the historic building, the requirement there is just that you wouldn't need to bring it up to code, right? So I believe we would fall under that exception under 305.7, which is the 20%. So I guess to your point, we could make both arguments and state that not only are we satisfying that, but we would not have an obligation to actually bring it up to code if it were not for this, this option.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So the town of Paonia doesn't have a historic preservation category or section or recognition. It's mentioned in the comprehensive plan as something we're thinking about, but it's not something we recognize right now.
And if I could be heard just on that point, we would like to have access and we would like to make it accessible, even if there are exceptions to the IBC. A lot of our customers have access issues and we want to support them.
We'll move my comments under board deliberation.
Oh, okay. That sounds good. I guess, let's see where we're at here. So we're still in the questions from the trustees?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions that anybody has, any trustee questions have for the applicant or for staff? Okay, so hearing none, I will close the public hearing and turn the matter over to the zoning board of adjustments for consideration of the matter listed on the agenda. So now we are in board deliberations. So the board members should discuss application, noting attributes that support a determination to approve or deny the application in accordance with the applicable provisions of town code. Would you like to start us off?
Thank you very much. Taking your point and Gia's point and looking at just the streetscape and what it would look like to have a ramp here and then a ramp here. To me, that isn't aesthetically pleasing. I mean, it's too symmetrical. I'd rather see the one entrance ramp going into your building and then the other blue sage, especially since it would take up a ramp that was ADA acceptable, would take up a major portion of your frontage. And that to me just doesn't seem aesthetically pleasing. And having an ADA accessible ramp that even if it doesn't go down the other side, still gives plenty of accessibility and does offer the ability for people to park things and not have to move the bike rack, which a lot of people do utilize simply because it is an Indigo Auto. And they do go in and buy groceries and carry it right out to their bikes. I guess it's up to the ZBOA whether they want to do that or not. I would suggest that we let it sit where it is and just have the single-sided ramp go up.
Okay. Any other deliberations from? the
Nope,
Tuesday?
not for me. I'm good.
Okay.
And I would agree with that too. Let's keep it simple and make sure that not only the applicant, but the town gets a win-win.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think that's great. I think, in discussion here, I think, more I think about it, it would almost be like a motocross, double jump stuff right there. Which, the kids could love that, Then we're trying to discourage the extra e-bikes on the sidewalk and everything. And I think, again, we're trying to deal with existing conditions and, my point about it is focused upon, there could be a project sometime in the future that, maybe the town entertains a project to completely redo the entire Grand Avenue corridor. Maybe they're gonna make it like a one-way that becomes a very widened area, as an example. You may have a bike path going one way and one-way traffic going the opposite way with lots of on-street parking and lots of parks and benches kind of built into a roadway like that. And, the more kind of, what's the proper term? The more items that are built in the right of way, the more stuff you have to deal with. But neither here nor there, that could be something that happened 20 years down the road, whatever, we don't know. And obviously that would be a major kind of, redo of a roadway and everything. And I say this from, I've worked on communities that have had all different sorts of right of way, incursions. And what happens is they can be difficult to deal with. But I think, given the circumstances and the benefits that we'll see basically now, it's by far, I think, outweighs, anything that might happen in the future because we're all looking at the crystal ball. So I'm in agreement with whatever everybody else at the on the zoning board has to say. So any further deliberation from anybody? So I will entertain a motion.
I move to
One second.
recommend. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Did you want to finish your motion there?
please go ahead.
I would just motion to approve the one ramp and move it forward to the trustees.
Okay, and just as a point of clarification, I think we have to conditionally,
Yeah,
but the proper language you'd like us to use?
Well, so there's two different points. So town recommended a conditional approval, subject to engineering approval from our engineers, as well
Okay.
as, the limitations on the use of the remaining sidewalk, basically within 4 feet of the entrance and along the ramp where everything's limited. So, you don't have to add those to the motion as conditional, but,
Okay,
you might.
do you want to add those to your motion?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Any last minute deliberation? Okay, hearing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I think we have to take a roll call. Is that correct?
If I could take a roll.
Yes,
call.
please do. Okay.
Okay, we're doing a roll call vote. Board member Schroeder.
Aye.
Chair Dusterbeck,
Aye.
Secretary Pinelli,
Aye.
and board member Beckman.
Aye.
All right. So the motion passes unanimously. All right, so I think with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Got to make the motion. You just get to say.
All right, then we're going to adjourn the zoning board of adjustment hearing tonight. Thank you.
Going out.
Thank you.
Now I have to get this
You don't
one.
have to, but you could.
All right.
I think I managed to pronounce everybody's name differently.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Good night.
thanks, Adam, thanks,
Thank you.
Chelsea.
Have a good night.
Thank you.